Good morning, gentlemen. How we doing?
Pretty good, man. You in full swing with your Halloween preparations?
Full swing. We got pumpkins on the porch. The Halloween costume has come in the mail, and we are locked and loaded here.
Nice. What's the little guy going to be for Halloween? Or we can't say on the air?
No, we can give it away. The older one was making a strong push for Captain Hook. The problem was he didn't want his brother to be Peter Pan. He was convinced his brother needed to be Smee. So Daddy may be in some leggings as Peter Pan. We'll see how that goes.
Good stuff, man. So where were we at last night? Holy Spirit game?
Yeah, I bounced around a little bit. I started at Holy Spirit on the road at Buna and caught some fireworks early on, and I guess really fireworks all throughout that game, but I had to take off about midway through the second quarter. Made the drive up to West Deptford for a big showdown between the Eagles and Haddonfield. Of course, that's a huge rivalry up there. Both of those teams coming in undefeated, and that one didn't disappoint. Went to overtime, and the Eagles kicked a field goal to win it. Man,
you had it worked out just right, buddy.
Yeah, you're trying to map this out. I've talked to you guys about that before. And, it's some people love these 6 p.m. starts in Greater Atlantic and Cape May County, and some people kind of don't like them. But for someone who has to get multiple games, I love them because it staggers the starts, and you get a chance to feature more kids in the coverage. And give credit to Buna. I talked to Josh last night on the show, and I think many people expected maybe Holy Spirit to come in there and just blow the doors off, but Buna had something to prove because the Chiefs have been shut out 2 weeks in a row, and they really hung with Holy Spirit early in that game. And, you don't want to say that Holy Spirit was sleeping through that game or sleepwalking because they have a big one next week. I'm sure they did prepare, but, I think the Spartans are getting a challenge from some of these teams, whereas maybe they didn't a year ago. And, give credit to Holy Spirit as well for answering the call and pulling away, obviously, and winning handily in the end.
Yeah, that offense, that Holy Spirit offense, just so tough to stop when you're talking about Zamat as a dual threat quarterback, Elijah Gray, Lee Dawson, Danny Tarsitano, just so many weapons, and the offensive line seems like it's playing a lot better than maybe it was early in the season.
Yeah, they really control the line of scrimmage is what I've noticed the last couple of weeks watching them. Certainly a week ago against St. Augustine and definitely last night against Buna. Really no issues on offense when things are clicking, when Zamat's able to run the ball and find the holes, and when they have Gray coming out of the backfield, and even Dawson a change of pace back there as well. So a lot of weapons to choose from. It looks like right now just maybe shore some things up on defense, but I wouldn't be worried about that with the crew they have on the defensive side of the ball as well. Obviously they have a big one this week against Camden Catholic, and then a nice break in the scheduling for Holy Spirit is that they have that Week 9 bye. So they're pretty much locked into one of the high seeds in the non-public Group 2 playoffs. Obviously, a win over Camden Catholic could vault them to really the 1 or the 2, but they'll get a nice bye heading into the postseason after a big showdown with the Irish.
Yeah, and I think Holy Spirit, ever since that early season loss to St. Joe Hamilton, has really got them in their radar because they could meet up in the state playoffs, maybe even in the finals.
Yeah, you talk about really the same kind of 3 teams at the top of that non-public, too. Obviously, the 2 South Jersey teams, the 2 true South Jersey teams, St. Joe and Holy Spirit, and then Modern Day, which is in a weird spot. Last time I checked, they hadn't really played a lot of games. I think one of their games, a little bit of controversy, it got turned into a scrimmage. They played this Canada prep team, which came down. They used some players which were later deemed ineligible, so then they were able to convince the state it was only a scrimmage. So I think they're only going to get 7 games in, so that sort of hampers them in power points. But the other side of that is I think they play 1 or 2 of those North Jersey teams, which, again, a ludicrous rule that you get double power points
right.
losing to those teams. So I think when the dust settles, I think Modern Day could still be the number 1 seed, even though possibly St. Joe and Holy Spirit would have equal or better records. But we'll see. It doesn't really matter if you're the 1 or the 2. Obviously, it matters if you're the 2 or the 3, because the 3 would have to go on the road. But 1, 2, it doesn't matter. If you get to that championship game, you'll be playing at a neutral site.
Right. Talking with Mike Frankel of SNJ today. And, Mike, tell us about that West Deptford Haddonfield finish. Kind of a crazy finish there in overtime. Kid hits a 35-yard field goal. That had to have been pretty chaotic at the end there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, West Deptford was up 7-0 at the half, and really Haddonfield couldn't get much going. And then for the second week in a row, the Bulldogs come out and march down the field on the opening drive of the third quarter. So they get on the board there. Then they surge ahead in the fourth quarter, and West Deptford responds on their ensuing possession and comes back and ties the game. And look, Haddonfield had their chances. I mean, they move into field goal range with 5 seconds to go in the fourth. They missed a 30-yarder. The Bulldogs had the ball first in overtime, really unable to move the ball. But, again, you're starting that drive on the 25. So I think they moved it about 9 yards, set up another 30 or so yarder, missed that. And then the same deal for West Deptford. The Eagles couldn't really move the ball in overtime, but credit to their kicker. He's able to knock it through the uprights, and the Eagles come away with the win. And like I was telling Josh last night, I mean, those are two South Jersey Group 2 teams, and I've seen a number of them right now to this point in the season. It seems like everyone's pretty tightly bunched. I mean, definitely one of those playoff brackets to keep an eye on. You talk about the two teams I saw last night, West Deptford and Haddonfield. Obviously, Camden and Cedar Creek are right there as well. Sterling is also much improved this year, so I'm not sure it's going to matter so much the seeding when the South Jersey Group 2 playoffs roll around. It's going to matter really who shows up big time on any given night.
Yeah, you're also talking about teams like Barnegat and Pleasantville looking to get in there. I mean, Pleasantville's, 5-1 now, and right now I guess they're on the outside looking in. They came into this week in the number 10 spot, so they're hoping to get some more power points for Pleasantville here in the next couple of weeks. But I was talking to Coach Sacco before the season over Pleasantville and was saying, hey, you guys might have to win 7 games to get into the playoffs. And he was like, yeah, you're right, man. This is a brutal playoff bracket.
Yeah, it's almost a must-win with Gloucester Catholic coming to town for Pleasantville on Friday night. And Gloucester Catholic just lost its first game of the season in sort of blowout fashion last night against Woodstown, and that's a Woodstown team scrapping to make the Group 1 playoffs. So, yeah, there's just not a lot of power points up for grabs, really, is the brutal truth of it. And that's with the new scheduling system. It's great because it's a more balanced and competitive schedule. At the same time, I mean, you look at the bigger schools, look at a team like Vineland. I mean, they were undefeated, but they almost had to win that game last night against Atlantic City, or else they could kind of be in trouble with the playoffs just because so many of the teams they've played, they've handled them, they've handled their business,
Sure.
But those teams haven't picked up many wins, and all of a sudden you're undefeated, but maybe you're 7th, 8th, 9th in the power points. So, yeah, weird spot for Pleasantville, but as they say, you've got to trust the process, win the games that are put in front of you, and I think if they get that one next Friday night against the Rams, which will be tough, and obviously Gloucester Catholic will be looking to bounce back, and they're trying to qualify for the playoffs as well. But I think if Pleasantville can get that one, they'll be in pretty good shape to sneak into the playoffs.
Good stuff, as always, Mike. We appreciate it. Tell our fans out there and your fans how they can see the highlight show.
Yeah, guys, we have a show called The Locker Room as well. I know you guys have your locker room show coming up next. Ours is obviously on the TV side. It's sort of like the Friday Night Blitz of old for the NBC 40 viewers, but it's called The Locker Room. It's Monday nights at 7:30 on Comcast, Channel 4 or 789, and it's 30 minutes of highlights all around the West Jersey Football League. So we have a bunch of the Cape Atlantic League schools in there. Obviously, teams from outside of that as well. Big matchups from Colonial Conference schools, Tri-County Conference schools, Olympic Conference schools. So 7:30, Pete Thompson and I on Monday nights.
Awesome, man. Have a good show, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and have fun next week, I guess, or in about a week or so on Halloween.
Yeah, looking forward to it, guys. Hopefully no pictures of me in the Peter Pan tights. I'll tell you that.
All right, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys. Thanks.
That was Mike Frankel of SNJ today.